and stand from...
Hey Dan and Nikki, it is still Monday, and this is the last of the 3 videos I plan on making this evening. After Beth and I left the Reeds open house, Beth went where? Home. Actually, because Colton and Mason, we thought maybe a few of the other boys wanted to come over and just hang out in Galen's old space. You know what I mean? Come out and hang out at the house. I went water skiing. I just felt like I wanted to go do something. I keep talking to the boys and the kids, really, but even the boys, meaning Galen's friends, about how important I think it is to stay engaged in life and to keep doing things, to do positive things. I mean, they don't have to be, monumentally meaningful or anything, but just positive things with people. I don't know if I talked to you guys at all, but I've swam one time at the Y by myself since Galen died. And before I was swimming 4 or 5 days a week by myself, plus 2 or 3 other times at St. Mary's, and I just, don't have that in me right now. Neither the drive, nor the desire, nor the interest, maybe. And so I've been at, if I swim, it's up at St. Mary's with the Masters group or open water. So it was going to be a nice weekend. It was a nice weekend, and we knew the weather was going to be crappy this week. In fact, it's 55 today, maybe, and rainy. So anyway, we had planned on going water skiing, and I wanted to go out with everyone, and the people who were going was Glenn, of course, Kyle, who I don't know if you've met, but I certainly talked enough about him. He's the river biologist up at something island Indian community.
What are you making?
And Prairie Island Indian community, I think it is. Anyway, and then so Kyle and his sister Tiffany. And I had. It's funny because I made the comment to maybe the kids the day before that if you're not getting hurt from time to time, you're not really trying. So that brings me up to Saturday's water skiing.
God does have a sense of humor.
Yeah, and so I think I talked about, I've not shown you any video of me slaloming, but I have been doing a lot of slaloming, and I've actually gotten much better. I'm able to get up on one ski. Glenn had this great rope that, so you've got the handle here, and the rope, instead of coming from both sides of the handle into a triangle, it comes out and then sort of meets another handle and then goes out into a really elongated triangle, which allows you to put your ski up in that second triangular portion, the tip of your ski, and so you're able to stay square as you're getting up. But I've gotten much better at getting up, and I'm able to really starting to cut. So in slalom skiing, there's sort of this pendulum effect where you're coming across the wake, which is essentially the bottom of the pendulum, right? And that's when you're going about your fastest. And then as you come up to the cut, that's when you slow down and change directions. And at that point, the rope goes a bit slack. And then what you have to do is you have to really lean back because that rope is going to pull you, and you accelerate from 0 to 40 in about a second. And you come whipping across that wake. Got to keep your knees bent because absorb the impact of the wake. And then you get across and you slow down slightly. You cut off again. And so I was getting much better at that. Much better at the cutting. Much better at anticipating the rope pulling and being able to really lean back into it. So my first run was about 5 minutes, and then I tapped out. You tap your head, and that tells the driver you're ready to be done. Because I knew we were going to be going probably 3 or 4 times a piece, and the previous time had been Wednesday that we had gone, and I had taken 3 runs, and my thighs were absolutely killing me. So it was going to be a good day, and I was really looking forward to it. And I think we were going to do a little ski jumping later. But anyway, and so on my second run, I've cut 5, 6, 7 times, and I'm on the left side of the boat, and I've got my arm, the boat side arm, holding onto the rope as I'm cutting, and I grab that rope and I'm pulling, and I take off across that wake, but I was just a little bit too forward, and as I come across the wake, I could feel myself going even more forward, and I thought I was going to be able to save it, and I ended up pulling out of my skis, and I landed, and I landed about on the left side of my chest, and at that point, I think I remember hearing a popping sound, or maybe just feeling a popping sound. They told me that I skipped across the water 2 or 3 times before I actually sunk. Now, Glenn had offered a life vest, and I had said no because I was wearing a full wetsuit, and they're so buoyant. What I hadn't realized at the time was that the primary purpose of the life vest is not to keep you afloat after you fall, but it's to absorb the impact when you fall. So, lesson learned, right? So I'm laying there in the water, and I'm just laying there on my back, and I can hear Glenn and Kyle and Tiffany screaming and hollering, woo! Until they realized that I wasn't hollering back, and they came a little closer and asked if I was okay, and all I could get out was no, I'm not okay. And on the back of Glenn's boat, he has a kind of a dropped down wooden platform that's just about water level. And so I was able to get up onto that and roll over onto my back. And at that point, that's all I could do. I could just, my chest was hurting so bad. And all I could do was lay there.
It still hurts bad when you sneeze and cautious.
And so they actually had to, Glenn and Kyle had to, because I couldn't sit up. I couldn't move. So Glenn and Kyle had to pick me up and put me in the bottom of the boat. And so as I'm laying there, it's hurting really badly. I can't hardly move. They put a couple of towels on me. I put my legs up because I don't know if you're familiar with shock and what shock does, but your body will start going into shock, which takes all the blood and takes it to the main organs. But what it does is it shorts your brain enough to where you pass out. So you're better off just laying down. So I put my legs up, and my legs were shaking really badly, and I just I could move my arms and my legs. I wasn't paralyzed or anything like that, and that wasn't the concern. It's just I felt like I had broken something in my chest, like some ribs or. It hurt so bad. So we got back to the dock, and I couldn't even begin to stand up. So they had to do that thing where you want to. I had to do that thing where they rolled. Here.
Oh, that's better.
Yeah, where they rolled the towel under me. So I had to kind of roll over this way, and they stuffed the towel under my back, and they rolled this way, and they pulled it out to create this sort of sling. And so Glenn and Kyle, I sort of planted my feet, and then what they did is they picked me up so I could stand up. And with a little help, I was able to at least step out of the boat. And I walked to the car, and I could feel like creaking and popping in my chest, and it was just pretty much my left chest from just to the left of my sternum all the way around underneath my pectoral, almost to the side of my ribs, was hurting and very sore. And so I figured that I had either bruised or broken or some other thing. So this was about 5 o'clock, and we were going to a dinner party at 6:30, which I'll tell you about. Maybe I'll tell you about that in my next video. And I'm not a hospital guy unless I know it's necessary. And I wasn't. I mean, it hurt. I could barely get into the car. In fact, I had to do one of those things where you sit in sort of square, you sit down, and then you pull your legs around, which actually it's still like that here 2 days later. But so I got home, and Beth looked up, we looked up some information, of course, on the internet, the wonderful source of medical diagnostics. And we figured it was either, like I said, bruised, broken ribs, or what's called, and what we finally settled on, is called costochondral, Costochondral separation, which is essentially the ribs, the connective tissue between the ribs and the sternum and those muscles separate.
Tony, you gotta stop climbing up there.
Which one of the symptoms, not symptoms, but one of the
distinguishing
characteristics is that pop and crackling that I was hearing when I moved in particular ways. So I took 3 Advil for starters. Oh, and on the way home we did grab some ice, and I had put ice on it, which felt a little better. But that night I couldn't. I could barely get into bed. In fact, I had gotten into bed, and I had rolled onto my right side, and I just couldn't move. My light was still on, and I was hoping that when Beth came to bed, she would figure it out and turn the light off, which she did. And of course, I had to get up and pee like 3 times that night, and it just I'm on the left-hand side of the bed, so I can't roll to my left side, so I can't sit up either, so I have to actually roll to my right side and kind of scooch off the bed as best I can, and then stand up from there. So everything has to be very square movements that use my legs, especially when I'm lifting or standing, that I'm using my legs only, not my torso or not my chest muscles. I can't sneeze. I sneezed once and it just about dropped me to my knees. No, it did drop me to my knees now that I think about it. I can't really laugh. At least no deep guffaws, and I can't cough. I can barely wipe my butt because it hurt just spinning around. I know it's probably more information than you wanted to know, Nikki, but at least I'm not shooting you a video while trying to wipe my butt. A deep breath, any deep breath hurts. So Sunday morning, we were, of course, going to be open water swimming, which is what we do every Sunday. And we had planned on swimming in the slough behind Glenn's house and then water skiing afterwards. And give me just another minute, I'll be done. And so I went swimming. I was able to get my wetsuit on, which actually really hurt contracting my chest, but the cold water felt so good. Only problem was I couldn't. I could get my arm over my head, but I couldn't really pull. So I just swam one-handed, one-armed quite a bit, and then I got to where it finally loosened up enough where I couldn't really pull, but what I could do is if I really rotated, I could at least get my arm down without hurting too badly. And then if I rotated the other way and kept my elbow nice and high, I could come back through, which is actually how you want to swim anyway. But it, it just... So, needless to say, it hurts. Again, that word is costochondral. Hurts like hell, but fun to say. Costochondral separation, excuse me. It sounds like it's anywhere between a 6 and a 12-week recovery. And there's nothing you can do for it. You can't wrap it, you can't cast it. It's just suck it up and deal with it. So I think I can still swim, at least gently, which is good. I thought that maybe I could go out water skiing again if I got on the jump skis and held on with just one hand. not going jumping, but just the jump skis are really wide and very buoyant. But we'll see. But Sunday when we went out skiing, they did let me drive the boat. Even though it felt like a demotion, at least I was involved.
What?
I can only steer with one hand though, because I can't steer with this hand because it hurts too bad. So that's it. We did go to a dinner, like I said, a dinner party Saturday evening. We were about 15 minutes late, but we did make it, and I think there were 10 people total. And it was some people that I know through the coffee shop. There were some university professors there and some others. And, but the person who was cooking was a total foodie. And we had lamb, and we had roast figs, and we had gorgonzola, and we had
Braised leeks.
yeah, braised leeks, and we had duck prosciutto, and we had pork cheeks, and excuse me, homemade lime ice cream. It was pretty good. So anyway, at the end of the night, Jennifer, the hostess, we were saying our goodbyes, and I gave her kind of a gentle hug because it hurts. But then she had shared something with me about one of her family relative to Galen, and gave me this big, very emotional hug, and I was sitting there, and it hurt so bad. But because she had just shared this thing, I didn't want to say like, "Oh my God, that hurts! Let go of me." So I just hugged her back, and it was. I waited until I got outside before I started going, ow, 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 ow. But all in all, it was a good weekend. I lived. I was really trying. I skied just beyond my ability, if not way beyond my ability. And I learned a great deal. And I feel acutely in touch with my mortality. So, that being said, I am going to end this by saying, go USA!